This is what's left. We've got 5 games left. And everything we talked about at the beginning of the season is still right there in front of us. We've got to take care of business the next 5 weeks. You get into November and December, everybody has to be laser focused. I need everybody's best effort.
Touchdown Raiders.
This is where the cream rises to the top. The real teams that are going to do some damage in January, this is where they begin to peak. There's absolutely no reason why the Raiders can't go to New York and take care of business against the winless Jets. They're 0-11 for a reason.
With a touchdown for the Raider touchdown.
I'm counting on you. You're counting on me. I can't let you down. It has to be that type of relationship.
Touchdown.
We can still be a playoff team. We can still get to the AFC Championship. We can still win a Super Bowl.
This is the only way.
The Las Vegas Raiders head east this week, off to New York to take on the winless Jets, who got Sam Darnold back, but unfortunately it didn't make any difference to the outcome.
Darnold chased out, rolling right, throws on the run, and a terrible pass, picked off.
Darnold didn't throw any TD passes, was picked off twice, finishing with a passer rating of just 51.
Darnold's pass is picked off.
Darnold was also sacked 3 more times, making it 22 times he's been sacked in his 7 starts.
Darnold in trouble and sacked again.
While the Raiders don't have much of a pass rush, they have played the pass fairly well for the year. Even last week in their blowout loss, they still held Matt Ryan to 185 passing yards, a meager 4.7 yards per attempt, a rating under 80 while picking him off.
Intercepted on the play by Abram on the ricochet.
Vegas is top 10 for the year in rating allowed and completion percentage allowed, and their yards per attempt figure is now in the low 7s.
Ryan grabbed and got him.
So how do you lose 43-6 if your D wasn't 43-6 bad? Cue all those turnovers.
It's fumbled by Carr and it's recovered by Atlanta.
Derek Carr fumbled the ball away 3 times and also threw a pick.
Fumbling pocket, it's intercepted and picked off on the play. He'll take it all the way.
Josh Jacobs also got in on the action, the Raiders giving it away 5 times in one game.
Holding on for dear life. Oh, the ball's fumbled.
They also allowed 5 sacks for the game to a Falcons team that doesn't have much of a pass rush.
Here goes Peterman. Look out from one side. No place to run, no place to hide.
The Jets aren't sack specialists either, but they did get to Ryan Fitzpatrick 4 times last week.
Hewitt hits Fitzpatrick. Ball up in the air. It's loose.
And they came up with 2 fumbles against the Dolphins. Those 2 ingredients, the key ingredients to the Raiders losing.
Breida lost the football. It's free, and the Jets dive on it.
However, Carr being sacked a lot isn't the norm. They had only allowed 14 prior to last week.
Going deep, and he looks here, and a great catch by Ruggs.
And despite it being the giving season, the Raiders don't usually give it away a lot, and Carr still is having one of the best years of his career.
3rd and 5, blocked by Hudson, downfield they go.
If Carr has time and doesn't turn it over, they'll be facing another defense that has played the pass pretty poorly too, though again, that was the case with the Falcons.
Fitzpatrick lofts one for the end zone, and it is caught. Touchdown!
The black hole was feeling pretty blue after last week. They were definitely not expecting a game like that. I don't know what color they'd be feeling if they were the first team to lose to the Jets in the middle of a playoff run, no less. New York, though, still has a lot of motivation to avoid finishing with a donut in their win column. Maybe they could crank some red-hot chili peppers throughout the game for good luck. Get your predictions into the comments section. We will get ours across the bottom of the screen. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. You know what I meant.
3rd down and 9. Darnold looking deep for Perriman. He's got separation and the catch.
Route running ability like that. On 1st down, it's Booker. His first carry of the day. Down the sideline and in. Touchdown Raiders.
Welcome to Talk of the Nation, Week 13, brought to you by Intermountain Healthcare. I'm JT, and we're on location here at the beautiful Allegiant Stadium at the Coors Light Landing. The Silver and Black are back on the East Coast again, looking to snap a 2-game losing streak as they take on the winless Jets. Coming up on the show, we have the great Justin Tuck and famed sports broadcaster Chris Rose. But first, I'm joined by Jason Fitz of ESPN and ESPN Radio. Jason, so good to see you again. and the Raiders got to put last week behind them. What do you think's the biggest reason why the Raiders will bounce back against the Jets?
That's a great question. And look, part of this comes back to the youth of this roster. I mean, this is an incredibly young team across the board for the most part. This is that opportunity to sort of just forget and move forward. The coaching staff has been remarkable this year. And I think, it's easy to look at last week and say, hey, this team got their butts kicked. Take nothing away from that. But the fact is that John Gruden and Tom Cable have particularly been able to do great jobs with this offense. That didn't show last week. I have a hard time believing that we'll see that for a second week. This comes down to staying in the right down and distance. JT, you know that. And realistically, this is a team last week that between penalties and between negative plays put themselves in a bad situation. We haven't seen that all year. I have no reason to think we'll see that against the Jets team that is not talented. I mean, the Falcons, at least on paper, are a good team. The Jets can say none of that. So they have a matchup advantage. I fully expect for Gruden to be able to take advantage of that offensively, particularly. I think the Raiders bounce back. They bounce back in a big way.
Well, the Raiders still control their own fate. They have games still against the Colts, Chargers, Dolphins, and Broncos. Do you feel like they have to win 4 out of 5 or almost run the table to get into the postseason?
I don't think they have to run the table, but 4 out of 5 I think is pretty realistic. But that's also part of why, JT, I've been saying on national all week that, anybody that's hot taking that the Raiders are now out of the playoffs, it just isn't paying attention. Because if you look at the schedule, the Raiders do control their own destiny, and they have the tiebreaker against Cleveland. That's significant because when you look at the Browns' upcoming schedule, they have the Titans, the Ravens, the Steelers. They also have a Giants team that is far better than their record. So I see at least 3 more potential losses on the schedule for the Browns. So the Raiders go in, take care of business. They will control their own destiny because of tiebreakers, and I still think it's a playoff team, 100%.
We both talk about this often on the radio. The schedule is wild. Teams you think you're going to beat come up and bite you, and then there are other games where teams are causing upsets. So I think the schedule here in the month of December around the AFC is going to be wild. I'm sensing a bunch of upsets.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I think it's become a lot like the NBA because we talk so much about how the NBA is a matchup league, right? And so sometimes you just don't match up with the team well, even if it's in the playoffs, you got the higher seed. The reason we see upsets sometimes is just matchup problems. So you look across the board and the Browns have matchup issues. I'll go back to them. Even the Steelers at undefeated haven't looked great. They have matchup issues with some of these teams. So it is going to be absolute havoc. And also let's just acknowledge the fact that as a culture in sports media, we fall in love with every quarterback that plays a few good games. And Justin Herbert has looked great. I'll take nothing against that. Tua Tagovailoa has had great moments, but they're also young quarterbacks. We have no idea what to expect from them down the stretch. So the Dolphins look like they have some beatable moments coming ahead to me also.
Pro Bowl voting opened up at Raiders.com/Pro Bowl. Why don't you give me an under-the-radar Raider that you think has a chance of getting your vote?
That's a great question. I'm going to go with the offensive line in general on this because I think this offensive line has been absolutely spectacular. And I still have it in my head. I was doing a draft show with Mina Kimes and Mike Golick Jr. and Field Yates the year that Colton Miller was selected. And, Junior, being an offensive lineman award voter in college football, studies these guys so much. And he laughed on air and said, man, you did not get the guy you want in Colton Miller. And I look at Colton now and it's like he's proven a lot of people wrong. So part of that, again, great job by the coaching staff, but you could make a case for any of the offensive linemen. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I know Good isn't going to get any Pro Bowl votes or consideration, but I think somebody like that should, considering the number of different positions he's been asked to play. So I'm looking at that side of the line, particularly saying, hey, everybody pays attention to Rodney and Gabe, but I think the other guys on the line deserve a lot of credit.
Now, we both have something in common. We came from sports fan. Now look at us. Look at this place. Look at where we are today. We're living the dream. We both have that in common. Tell us about your journey and where you're at today.
It's funny you mentioned that, JT, because I've been listening to you for years, and I always look back, for anybody that doesn't know, I was touring in music and had some success. In our busiest year, I was out with a country band called the Band Perry, and our busiest year, I was gone 300 days, and I came home to my wife in December, and I said, look, I'm honored to do what I do, but I don't love it. And my wife said, if I asked 100 of your friends what you really love, what would the answer be? And I said, sports, without hesitation. And she said, great, find a way to talk about sports. And for me, when I was a little kid as a violinist growing up in Vegas, actually, the funny thing is by the time I was 8, I was practicing 8 hours a day. I got into Juilliard when I was 10. My one rule when I was a kid was no practice on Sundays because my dad wanted to watch a Raiders game and didn't want to listen to a violin in the background while it happened. So my dad and I would sit down, eat a dozen donuts together and watch the Raiders. That's been my whole life. I do what I do today because of my fandom for the Raiders. I started a podcast and I did it in my car because I felt like an idiot and didn't know if anybody would listen to it. And I grew that thing and I grassroots that thing and I got myself to the point where luckily important people took note of it. So, you know, my life changed because of my fandom for the Raiders. So it's crazy, but that's the one thing that I think makes it unique. And you know this as well as anybody, but like when you start talking to fans, but you haven't lost the fan mentality, I think people get that. It feels more real and it connects better. So I never hide my fandom because I think it's an important part of why I can relate to every fan base every year. We've all been through good years. We've been through bad years. We know the pain and angst of it. I'm not jaded to it. I want to embrace that emotion, and that's what I think makes it different.
Thanks, Jason. Keep doing what you're doing. Your career is taking off. Coming up next, one of the busiest men in all of media, Chris Rose, joins us from NFL Network on Talk of the Nation.
This has been brought to you by Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, nonstop flights. Book now, only at Allegiant.com. Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Intermountain Healthcare, helping people live the healthiest lives possible. Presented by San Manuel Casino, official Southern California casino of Allegiant Stadium.
Welcome back to Talk of the Nation. Chris Rose joins us from NFL Network. And Chris, so great to see you. You're one of the busiest guys in all of sports. And how's it been for you covering sports during the pandemic?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I also work for MLB Network. I do a daily show called Intentional Talk with Kevin Millar, the old Red Sox. And we've actually been doing that for a decade, each out of our own homes. So while people were in our business were making adjustments during the pandemic and trying to light up their home and make their place look like studios, we were like, where you been? We've been doing this for 10 years. So we were kind of ahead of the curve when it came to that. But as far as the NFL goes, you know, fortunately, I was let back in the building at the kickoff of the season. But it's been really different in terms of usually on Sundays, we would watch all the games together in a big theater. It's like probably 20 or 25 seats, and every one of the seats would be filled with somebody who's on the air or a producer or a researcher or whatever. Well, they've cut that down to about 4 of us now. So it's just 4 of us yelling and screaming in a single room and trying to get you ready to bring you game day highlights at 4:30 Pacific and then game day final right after the Sunday night game. So from that standpoint, it's been different. But, you know, like I don't go to the games during the regular season because I'm in studios on Sundays. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to cover the Super Bowl. I think the people that paid much more than I do at the network are still trying to figure that one out. But there's been massive adjustments. And just in terms of watching the games, I will say this. I still watch the product, and do I miss seeing the fans? Yes. Does it make me change the way I feel about football? No, it doesn't.
Now, you're a Browns fan, and your team's fighting for a playoff spot. The Raiders got the Browns early in that snow game. It was a big win for the Silver and Black, but the Raiders are now chasing the Browns. Talk about the AFC, the wild card in that race with your team in Cleveland.
Well, it's interesting. So let's start with the Browns because it's very rare that we're now in the beginning of December and we're not talking about who they should draft in the top 5. So this is a good feeling for us. 8-3, best 11 game start since '94 when Belichick was on the sidelines, which coincidentally was also the last year they won a playoff game. So Stefanski's been great. You know, they've basically won every game they should have. When you're a football fan, you're always like, oh, we should have won that one. No, we butts kicked week 1 in Baltimore, butts kicked in Pittsburgh, and the Raiders played better in a crappy weather game. So that's going to be one if it's head-to-head at the end of the season and the Raiders have that one in their checkmark column and the Browns don't, it's going to hurt. With all that being said, as far as the Raiders go, you know, they looked so good in that Sunday night loss to Kansas City. I know it's professional football. It's not junior varsity football where you pat them on the head and tell them, hey, you guys did a great job. But I really thought they made significant strides in their 2 games against Kansas City. And then for them to come out and have that disaster against the Falcons was horrible. So I put myself in the shoes of a Raiders fan right now. I'm pissed off. We are where we are. But I look at the rest of the schedule and I say, yeah, it's pretty doable. Like they do play the Dolphins over the last 5 weeks, don't they? Like the second to last game or something.
They do. They have a schedule coming up that's favorable, and Raiders got to feel like they almost have to run the table. One more thing on the Browns. You were a young boy back in 1981. What comes to mind when I say Red Right 88?
Really, JT? We're doing this to me? I'll tell you a funny story. So, two of them. My family had season tickets from the Browns ever since their inception in 1946. And so, I started going to the games when I was probably 6 or 7, and I was just about to turn 10 in 1981. And I got grounded. I wasn't allowed to go to the game. I took you remember the little toys, the Playmobiles, the things that bent at the waist? You remember those?
Yeah.
You don't? Okay. For some reason, I was a demonic kid, and I took a bunch of them and I flushed them down the toilet. So my parents had to call a plumber, and I blew up the entire plumbing system in the house. And they were like, "You're an idiot. You're sitting home." I was like, "But wait, the Browns made the playoffs for the first time. I can't go to the game." And so anyway, we were watching the game, and it was 98 below. And my mom looked at me and she's like, "God, you played this great. The week you get punished, it's too cold to be outside." And I was like, "But I still want to be there." I watched the game, and, I thought that Cockroft was going to come out and kick the field goal. He had had a terrible day, and they ended up throwing the ball for Newsome, and Mike Davis picked it off. So fast forward to 1995. I had my first full-time on-air job in Reno, Nevada, which was considered Raider territory. They love their Bay Area sports up there. And I go to cover an event, and who's the keynote speaker? Mike Davis.
Wow.
So I went up to him and I said, "Hi, Mr. Davis. My name's Chris Rose. You broke my heart when I was a kid." He goes, "Oh, you must be from Cleveland, Ohio." He could not, by the way, he could not have been a nicer gentleman. He was like, "Listen, I was shocked that Brian Sipe threw that ball. I thought there was no way he was ever going to throw it." And it broke my heart, but that story stuck with me through the years.
Finally, Chris, all eyes in Raider Nation are on the AFC playoffs, as we talked about. Give us your biggest NFL storyline that you've been watching besides COVID.
Well, I would say the biggest storyline is that Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, is already a top 8 quarterback in the history of the sport. And if by the time he is done, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a top 2 or 3. And if he's number 1, it wouldn't shock me. And I know the Raider Nation hates to hear that because you're going to have to go against him the next 15 years. But kudos to you guys. You have given him some problems this year. With that being said, I'd love to be the guy who has problems when he's scoring 30 points a game against a team that's kind of figured him out. I think he is so good and so special that I hope people don't get tired of his brilliance the way that we tend to want to move on to the next big thing.
Chris, so great seeing you. We hope to see you out here in Vegas soon. Coming up next on Talk of the Nation, Super Bowl champion Justin Tuck joins us.
Brought to you by Modelo, setting the gold standard for authentic Mexican beer since 1925. Modelo, brewed for those with a fighting spirit.
Welcome back to Talk of the Nation. We welcome in one of the best defensive players of his era. Justin Tuck joins us. And Justin, you played a short time for the Silver and Black, but I want to get into it because you were a big part in trying to change the culture of the franchise back then.
Yeah, I think, coming from the Giants and being able to, see, Super Bowl teams and play with great players and getting the opportunity to come out to the, Oakland Raiders, that storied history, that was something that really appealed to me. And, getting to work with, Charles Woodson and people like that, man, I knew it was something that I wanted to be a part of and wanted to be a part of it in a way that hopefully would bring, Raider Nation, a winning franchise again.
Now, Mike Mayock and John Gruden are trying to turn around this young defense, promising players such as Cleveland Ferrell, Max Crosby, Jonathan Abram. What do you think of the young Raiders as they're trying to get going in this league?
Yeah, it's a lot of promise there. I definitely love what I see from Max and Ferrell up front. Obviously, I think Max, in a lot of ways, hit the ground running last year, and it wasn't expected. Everyone knew he was talented, but I don't think anyone expected him to have the year that he had, and they didn't follow it up this year as well. So it's definitely a lot of talent there, a lot of young talent there they can build on, and I think Gruden and Mayock is gonna be able to add pieces over time and build this thing the right way through the draft and just add some smart pieces through free agency over time. But like, I'm very excited what I've seen from that that young defensive front. And you talk about Abram in the backfield. It just seems like he has the makings of some of the greats that you've seen, patrol that secondary. And he seems like he has a lot of that making. So hopefully he'll continue, progress and strive forward. And like I said, they have a great, foundation and nucleus as a young front there.
Well, you were a great player, and you played with so many legendary players throughout your career. What was it about Charles Woodson that made him so special, and while he'll probably be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Charles is just the consummate pro, first of all, but you add, he had the talent to do it all. He was great in coverage. He was great man-to-man. He was great blitzing. He was a phenomenal tackler. He played so smart. He didn't make mistakes. And as he got older, you could tell, like, he wasn't, the Charles Woodson of his early years, but like, he was so in tune with the game that he didn't have to be. He was a step ahead of everything. And just being around him and watching how he prepared, how he focused, I came there in my 9th year. I felt like I knew everything it was about getting my body and my mind prepared for a season or for a game. And I learned a lot from Charles. I still talk to Charles to this day. And like, like you said, he definitely, if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't even know what a first ballot Hall of Famer looks like. The guy was just a playmaker. Every time we needed a play, every time we needed something big, he was always up for it, and he came up big for us. And he did that his entire career.
In your time in Oakland, I remember when you came out of the tunnel, you'd lock in with the fans from the black hole. You were really engaged at that time. You still, even though a Super Bowl champion, had a lot to prove, and those years meant something to you. Talk about your years playing there in front of that great fan base.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that in my tenure there, we didn't completely turn it around. I think we started the foundation of turning it around, and especially having some of the young nucleus we had, and Khalil Mack and Carr and others, man. So I think, I'm disappointed in the fact that when I went out there, I had a sole goal focused around bringing back the Raiders, right? And that crowd never let us down, even though we, especially the first year there, we didn't have the season that we wanted to have, but like every home game was loud, packed, and they were there to the end. And like I found so much respect for that fan base when I was there. They embraced me, even though I was an outsider coming from New York. They embraced me. They embraced my family, and to this day, they still treat me like I was a guy who played for 15 years for the Raiders. So there's definitely a special place in my heart for Oakland, and that will never change.
Tell us what you've been doing post-career. I know you're helping players figure out their life after football. How's that been?
Yeah, I'm a vice president now at Goldman Sachs. I manage money for high net worth individuals, and a separate part of my business is creating education and guidance for a lot of our players in all leagues. But obviously, I'm super focused on the NFL, the NFLPA, and some of the things that we're trying to do there. And day to day, man, I'm looking at markets and trying to make sound, educated financial decisions for our clients.
Finally, the legacy brick at Allegiant Stadium. It's perfect for your office, too. Tell me about that. Once a Raider, always a Raider.
Yeah, that thing, like, this is special to me because, like, when I think about all the greats, all the Raiders that have come before me and will come after me, and just think about the names and the legacy and being a part of that, even though it was a small part of it, just being a part of it is special. And I applaud them for doing stuff like this because it keeps us engaged. It keeps us feeling like we had some small level of their success. So I definitely keep this around me in my office here, and I know other people who've got it as well, and it's something that's definitely special to us. So it's apparent that it's a brick too. It's pretty heavy too. So I think just being mentioned in that greatness is something you never take for granted.
Thanks so much for doing this, Justin. You had a heck of a career. We thank you for joining us. Coming up next, my final thoughts as the Raiders get set to take on the Jets on Talk of the Nation.
Coors Light, an official beer of Raider Nation, made to chill.
As we wrap things up today, the Raiders continued their commitment to excellence on and off the field this week when they introduced a new grant program to help local nonprofit organizations throughout the state of Nevada. Go to Raiders.com for more details. Now, I know all of the Raider Nation wants to talk about the playoffs, but it's one game at a time. Just take care of business in New Jersey. Don't worry about what the other teams are doing in the AFC. Just beat the team in front of you. Finish the season strong, and the rest will all take care of itself. For everyone at Silver and Black Productions, I'm JT. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we'll get you ready for the Indianapolis Colts on Talk of the Nation.
Yo, what's up? This is Prime with another edition of Just Win, baby. And this week, the Raiders meet the Jets. So I know, I should have done one last week. If I would have done a Just Win, baby, last week, I bet you, man, Atlanta would be going on with another L. But holidays and such, it's kind of a busy man. Got a lot going on. But I tell you what, this week, for your Just Win, baby, I'm going to make sure I give it to you good, because right now the Jets are reeling. They're already lost every single game they've played. That's right. They are that big O. No wins. No wins. And they're not going to get a win this week. And I'll tell you why. Because Derek Carr, they are not, in that offense, they are not going to put up with what they did last week. Last week was an embarrassment after, putting up a bunch of points, going deep, having all sorts of success on the ground game and the pass game, everything. Jacobs was rolling, and all of a sudden you go and put up 6 points? Ouch. They do not like these trips out east, but the Jets, not today. Not today. Or not this Sunday. Whatever it is, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. That defense is coming back. It's going to look real good against, Sam Darnold or the second-string offense or quarterback. Who knows who they even have playing right now. I think they've only recently gotten back their entire wide receiver crew, which incidentally is not bad. But their quarterbacks are garbage, hot garbage. Their offensive line is garbage. Their running backs are garbage. Everything about that team is garbage. So what do the Raiders have to do? That's right, play Raider football. What does that even mean this year? Well, this year it means you're going to have a 70% completion rating from your quarterback. And we're not talking about interceptions. No interceptions. No interceptions. No turnovers. Turnovers are only going to give the Jets reason to think they could actually pull one out, but I don't think they want to. They want a Trevor Lawrence at quarterback next year or something like that. You know what I mean? That number one pick. Anyway, but Raiders have to play Raider football. That's the bottom line. And the offense has to hit on all cylinders. I'm talking about Jacobs. I'm talking about Aguilar and Ruggs the third. Let's get a little Waller. Waller, where you at? Let's get a little more action out of that tight end position. You only got probably one of the 5 best tight ends in the league. I know you got those wide receivers, but come on now. Let's get a complete offense. Let's spread the ball around a little bit. We're going to run it, and we're going to run some play action. That's right. And the defense, man, you can't let them put up 40 or 35. We can't do the shootout thing every week. You got to stop somebody. And these Jets, they're primed for the stopping Raider W. I'm Prime, and I'm out.
The Raiders look to get back in the win column as they head east to take on the winless Jets. Welcome to this week's edition of the Silver and Black Show presented by Cox. Today, Link and I will get you ready for a bounce-back spot at MetLife Stadium. Jim Plunkett joins us to break down third-year quarterback Sam Darnold. And I sit down with Impact defensive end Kendall Vickers to discuss his journey to Las Vegas. All that and so much more on this edition of the Silver and Black Show. Let's do this thing. What is up, Raider Nation? Aaron Coscarelli alongside my all-pro tackle, Lincoln Kennedy, here inside Allegiant Stadium at the Coors Light Landing. Not too shabby of digs to host this show, huh?
Well, you know, EC, I knew it was going to have certain perks working with you. I know they're going to be this grand, but it's awesome to be here.
You know what? Called a few people, made it work.
I like that.
No, but it's really good to see you because I always appreciate getting to pick your brain after the week's matchup and then looking ahead. And we're going to start with your takeaway from the Falcons game.
Well, it was unfortunate. I mean, it's a classic, what they call trap game. And the Raiders went back to Atlanta and didn't play their best. The offensive line got manhandled. There was a lot of pressure, a lot of situations where the penalties became costly, as well as the turnovers. It was an all-around sloppy performance out of the team in Atlanta. It
was an ugly loss. And those issues, the turnovers, the penalties, they certainly added up. And that's what Coach Gruden called a recipe for disaster. One of the things that we noticed was Carr's fumbling issues, 3 fumbles lost, and historically he hasn't been great when it comes to the fumbles lost stat. Right. What do you attribute that issue to in terms of last week's game? Because obviously some issues with the offensive line, injuries there up front, maybe they caught up, but what do you believe were some of Carr's issues there?
Derek Carr is the leader of this football team, and he feels pressed times when it's time to score. He's got to do everything right. So there are times where he's holding on the ball a little longer than he should, when that internal clock should say, you know what, get rid of it or do something right now because the pressure is going to collapse. But as the game went on, I felt that he felt more and more pressed to try to make the big play, to try to get the game back into control, and that is a recipe for disaster as well.
I'm going to tell you a staggering stat. Less than 50 rushing yards last week. That is the strength of this team, the rushing game, the running game. What do you believe you attribute that to, and how do you think you can turn things around when that is the identity? Because the Falcons did a great job at making this team one-dimensional on Sunday.
I will say this, that you got to remember the other guys get paid too. Okay, so you got to talk when it comes to preparation. The Falcons prepared. They were prepared for the staple runs that the Raiders rely on, and then when they took them away, they didn't really have anything to go back to. So it comes from adjustments, also comes from execution, because there are going to be times where you're going to press, especially when it comes to 1-yard runs, Aaron. You're going to press that 1-yard, 2-yard gain, and eventually in the fourth quarter, it's going to break down to 4 or 5-yard gains.
Right.
Unfortunately, they just didn't have that type of execution throughout the game.
And they're facing a team this week, which we'll talk more about, an angry, desperate, and strong run defense in the Jets, which of course we will get to momentarily with you, Mr. Kennedy. But coming up next, Kendall Vickers, the defensive end. He's going to talk about the Jets and his journey to the NFL. Stick around.
This has been brought to you by Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, nonstop flights. Book now, only at Allegiant.com. Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Coors Light, an official beer of Raider Nation made to chill. Presented by San Manuel Casino, official Southern California casino of Allegiant Stadium.
He was an undrafted free agent in 2018, played in the CFL in 2019, and then secured a spot on the Raiders' 53-man roster in 2020. Kendall Vickers, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You have had quite the journey to get here. How does it feel to finally make it all the way to the NFL and play in NFL games?
It feels good. A lot of hard work, a lot of persistence. You know, just by the grace of God, I was able to be here with, hard work, like I said, and be able to secure that spot. And coaches and teammates helped me along the way. So
that's very cool, indeed. And you played in the CFL last year. How big is the difference between the two leagues?
It's different. It's the same and different at the same time. You know, the rules are different. It's still football at the end of the day. But especially me being a defensive lineman, being a yard off the ball in the CFL is definitely something you have to get used to up there. So,
very interesting that you've had the ability to play in both and successful in both. And we could call you old reliable because one of your strengths, Kendall, is reliability. You played in every single game in the 3 years you started at Tennessee. What do you attribute your durability to?
At an early age, I was just taught to take care of my body. You know, cold tubs, hot tubs, Normatex, all the nicks and bruises that you have throughout the season really catches up to you at the end. So I try to stay on top of those things. And at a young age, like I said before, I was taught to really stay on top of that. So I kind of took that into the CFL, into now the NFL. So I'm doing a good job with it.
Yeah, you are, absolutely. And, you know, the Raiders are coming off an uncharacteristic loss like this weekend. How challenging for the team do you believe it was to get over that loss and move forward as you, of course, prepare for another matchup in Week 13 against a team on the East Coast?
Well, yeah, the Falcons are a good team. I know the record, wouldn't show it at the time, but they're a good team. They have really good players, and we just have to come out with that energy that we come out with the Chiefs and other teams like the Saints and stuff like that. We just got to go in and with the same energy and the same mentality that every week is another stepping stone to where we want to go to. So I think we watched the film, fixed the mistakes, and focus we got focused on New York now. So that's a really good thing about the NFL is that it's a week-to-week league.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we noticed, obviously, with the Chiefs, you guys came out firing on all cylinders, lost by only 4 points, and a lot was made about the practice this week. Did you notice any energy that might have been different heading into last week? And is that something that you believe makes an impact on game day?
Definitely. Practice definitely helps, especially when you can have all your guys out there getting reps, getting prepared for whoever you're about to play. I know this week we were in pads today. I think that helped with just the physicality of everything. And now tomorrow we can go in and do our Fast Friday and really just make sure we're on our key details and stuff like that and get ready for New York. We got another East road trip coming up, back-to-back weeks. So we got to get ready for that.
Didn't have practice Monday, Tuesday. League-wide rule known was to come into the facilities on Monday and Tuesday. How challenging is that for the week ahead? And what did you guys do instead to accommodate for not having actual practice on Mondays and Tuesday?
Yeah, well, we still were able to watch film on Monday. Still were able to watch film from home. Made a lot of key corrections at home. And that's really all you could do at the time. You just got to take advantage of that. So what I would do, I'm not allowed to go into the facility, so make sure I'm, making sure I'm getting my treatment in at home. Make sure I'm doing my rehab at home, and just making sure that I'm getting ready for Wednesday practice. Tuesday we already have off, so it makes it a little easier going into that Tuesday.
It has been an interesting year by far. Kendall, we appreciate you joining us on the show, and good luck this weekend against the Jets.
All right, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks so much. All right, from current Raider player to former Raider player, we're going to talk to our two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, Jim Plunkett, about how the Raiders can bounce back from last week and his honest opinion on what he really thinks about Sam Darnold. Don't go anywhere.
This segment has been brought to you by Microsoft, an official cloud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders.
All right, welcome back to the Silver and Black Show, presented by Cox. And let's welcome in our two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback to the show, Jim Plunkett. We appreciate you joining us today.
Always good to be here, Aaron. Thank you.
Well, Derek Carr called it a gut punch, dealing with a loss like that by the Falcons. In your opinion, Jim, how do you believe this team bounces back from a game like that?
You just put your head down, find out where you made your mistakes, and go forward. You got to gather together and find out what you did wrong and just make it better. It happens to everybody, no matter who they are during the course of a season. Somebody gets blown out, but you got to, get determined, turn things around, and be confident of what you're doing out there.
They're going to need to turn things around because this is officially must-win territory. Every game counts now down the stretch if the Raiders are wanting to enter the postseason. Do you believe, Jim, that players feel that outside pressure, or does Week 13 or any week really feel like business as usual?
Well, I think all players have different feelings about going into a particular game or the rest of this season. But, they understand that this is pretty much gut check time. They've got to go out there and do their job and do it well. Losses like that happen to Super Bowl winning champion teams in the past, and it happened to the Raiders, and hopefully that'll be the end of it. And they're playing a team that's struggling even more than they are. In a sense, Atlanta had a 3-7 record going in, and they came away with a blow-away victory. But you got to be worried about the Jets in the sense that they have nothing to lose.
Right.
You can't even game plan them. I don't think, because they're going to throw past statistics out the window and go for a victory against a team that really struggled last week.
You're absolutely right. The Jets have nothing to lose. And let's talk Sam, because you have familiarity with Sam Darnold from his time in the Pac-12. You watched what happened last year. What do you believe the assessment of your expectations from Darnold, especially considering all of the Trevor Lawrence chatter?
Well, Trevor Lawrence was a great college player, and, he's sitting in the wings, and I think there's some pressure on Darnold to go out and perform well. I think he only has 3 touchdown passes this season. It's been a very, very tough year for the Jets. Obviously, he's not the only person you can blame in this scenario, because they've given up, 30 points a game. They average over 30 points a game and 400 yards in their losses. And that's a pretty hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, Darnold hasn't thrown a touchdown in his last 4 games this season. So he's angry. Jobs are on the line. Coaches' jobs are on the line. And the Raiders' run game certainly been lackluster the last 2 weeks. This is something that you would believe is the identity of Silver and Black. What are some ways that you think this team can get back on track and having success on the ground, in your opinion?
It's just putting your nose to the grindstone there. You're going to make it work. You're going to make the running game go. And if you can, you still have to throw the football. There's no way around it. But they want that running game where you can do play action, where you can control the football, time of possession, all those things that make a winning team. Josh has been banged up a little bit, obviously, but it looks like he's ready to go. And they've just got to be more determined than the other team and run the ball down their throat. But as I said, if that doesn't work, then you've got to continue to throw the ball and put it in the air and try to move the ball that way. But a running game would really, really help the Raiders right now.
It would help. And their 3-game win streak, week 8 through 10, they were averaging 191 rushing yards a game. These last 2 weeks, the Raiders put together a combined 129 yards on the ground. Certainly want to improve that stat, I imagine. Well, good news, Pro Bowl voting is active. Guys at home, Raiders.com/Pro Bowl to vote. Now, if you, Jim, could send one player to the Pro Bowl from the Raiders, who's getting your vote?
I think it'd be Darren Waller. He's having a fantastic year, making a lot of catches. He's double covered at times, but he's making things happen down the field, and that's exactly where Derek Carr seems to, make his most of his throws too, and it's really paying off for the Raiders. But Darren Waller's having a Pro Bowl year. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. And no doubt about hearing a little rumor. It's somebody's birthday this weekend. What are our weekend plans, Jim? And happy birthday.
Well, thank you. I have no plans, just like every day so far in the last several months. But a little family get together, and that's about it. I don't exactly celebrate birthdays anymore. I'm trying to, I don't want to stop having them, but there's no big party going on, I guarantee you.
Well, hopefully.
I'll really, be happy if the Raiders win. And
there you go.
Be my birthday wish,
I hope your plans include watching a Raiders win this weekend. Jim, as always, we appreciate when you join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
November 17, 1968, the Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets, 2 longtime American Football League rivals, met in one of the most memorable games in professional football history. In 1968, 3-hour time slots were allotted for the showing of pro football games. Most of the time, that was sufficient, but not on this day. In this contest, the Silver and Black trailed 32-29 with 65 seconds left. As the clock struck 7 p.m. East Coast time, NBC switched to the scheduled showing of the children's movie Heidi. In the next minute, Daryl LaMonica put the Silver and Black on top with a 43-yard touchdown strike to Charlie Smith to take a 36-32 lead. On the ensuing kickoff, the Raiders scored their second touchdown in a 9-second span off a fumble recovery to secure a 43-32 victory. Viewers were outraged as they found out the outcome of the Heidi game, and all future NFL games had changed accordingly, as the league contractually ensured that all game telecasts would be shown in their entirety in their respective home markets from that point forward.